Book.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Frank with Franklin Collecting here live with Dream Book. Phil Siegel, Philip Siegel. He's the creator and one of the artists of Dream Book TCG. And we are talking today about Crystal Islands. This is a new Kickstarter project from Dream Book, and their brand new set coming out. So they're doing it via Kickstarter. Great way to campaign and raise money, especially as an indie Kickstarter, kind of a smaller TCG. So Phil's gonna let us in on some secrets of what to expect with this campaign. It launches September 5th, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I believe it's like a month long or 28 days or something like that. And it's going to have Crystal Islands. This is really the second mainline set. And I'll let Phil kind of give an overview and let me know if I'm messing any of these details up. But Dreambook's been around for actually a little bit. They had like an alpha and beta, and then they had their first Kickstarter campaign with their mainline set that included a Jurassic Journeys expansion. And then they had Ancient Mystic, which was pre-ordered from their website. And that was kind of like their first edition premiere set following their initial Kickstarter launch. Coming back again for Kickstarter campaign for Crystal Islands, which is the follow-up to Ancient Mystic, is sort of how I understand it. So we're going to be talking about what to expect in that campaign. There's also something very interesting with a attached project to this campaign, which is going to be a like legacy kind of set where a lot of earlier cards are being revamped and reworked and brought back. A lot of TCGs are doing that now. We had like Magic 30th, and I think Pokemon 151 is kind of like that. MetaZoo's got their legacy set coming out, and I think it's a really cool and fun project for any TCG. So we're gonna be talking about as much as we can about Crystal Islands without spoiling too much. And we're going to talk about gameplay, collectability, what's changed with Crystal Islands, and what's the future of Dream Book. Phil, I'm just going to let you kind of start off. And if you want to talk about what is Dream Book just in general, what is your TCG for those who may not have encountered Dream Book before? And also, so what is Crystal Islands in connection with your overall game?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great place to start. So, for someone who's never heard of Dreambook before, if you're coming in completely brand new, then what I would tell you is that Dreambook is essentially a world, or it's a game that takes place in the dream world where you will play the role of a weaver. Of course, a weaver is someone who has the power to conjure figments from your imagination, where those figments will then make up the ranks in your army in the war to save Dreamworld from the nightmares. And that's basically where the storyline would kick off, where the goddess sends out a call to all the weavers on Earth that she feels could aid her cause. And that's where people start ending up, they create these dream books, which is the portal into the dream world. And then they get taken into this other dimension where they encounter all these strange figments, and their adventure begins. So that's kind of the premise behind it. As far as the gameplay, it is a battle tactics trading card game. And as far as I know, it is the very first battle tactics trading card game. And what do I mean by that? It utilizes an open grid system that focuses on a simulation like an actual battle, where you're going to have different units that have different abilities, and how you utilize those units is going to determine whether or not you win or lose. So that's kind of the main concepts. Now, Crystal Islands, fast forwarding to that, like you said, we've had a few different sets. So we had the alpha and beta phase. There was the Beta Epic Adventures Volume 1. That technically was our first set. And then the second set would be Jurassic Journeys. Now, at the same time, we released the Kickstarter Special Box. So that's kind of like a simultaneous release. And then we would go to set number 3. That was Ancient Mystic. And that would be ultimately the fourth set is Crystal Islands. So it has been a journey, until this point. So in the world of Dreambook, Crystal Islands fits in as basically a place where you would be able to travel to in the dream world and it was created by an ancient battle between two angelic sisters, Midnight Blue and Crimson Red.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to go in a little bit in depth into the lore of that story on the actual Kickstarter page. You can read it, so I won't spoil it too much. But essentially, that battle created a cataclysm, which led to the formation of the islands. And now the islands are a hustling and bustling mecca of activity within the dream world as we fast forward to today. So there's a lot of interesting and different ideas coming together to form this whole storyline. And you'll find all those themes explored within the set.
Awesome. Yeah. So I didn't know that like the Ancient Mystic and the Crystal Islands are actually kind of like planes or like these dream
Yeah,
planes where these things kind of
that's
where the
exactly.
narratives kind of circle around. That's really
Yeah.
cool. So, and one thing that really helps me kind of attach to Dream Book 2, I think, is the concept of this Weaver. I mean, we see this in a lot of different TCGs, right? Because Pokemon was like sort of one of the original big TCGs, and not really,
Mhm.
even Magic didn't really have the plane. I guess maybe you were like the summoner or the planeswalker, and then eventually they, introduced the planeswalker cards. But Pokemon, you're a trainer and you summon, bring out your Pokemon to fight. And
Mhm.
we see that, with MetaZoo, you have the casters and their cryptids, and Magic's planeswalkers and your spells and creatures. And then here you are the Weaver, and then your different creatures and humanoids are like your figments. For me, I feel like that's such a strong concept that you all have, because in a dream world, like literally anything, we all dream and we have crazy dreams and different nightmares and
Yeah.
things, and it just allows you to kind of really be creative and even be kind of out there with some of your designs. And I think you see that with your game, right? We have such a variety of artwork and different kinds of creatures, and some of the art styles can be really different as well. And just like creatures, almost sometimes, even if they are so different enough that they almost appear from different games, almost, it just kind of works within your overall concept. So for me, that's a really great strength for your game, and it makes it narratively interesting too, being a weaver in the game. Are we going to see, real quick before we get into some of the general characteristics of Crystal Islands and look at some of these websites that we have up? Can you talk a little bit about like if you might see like a Weaver card, or like some of, because like with Pokemon, you can actually, you're not just a trainer as a player, right? You have four trainers and different kinds of characters that are apart from what you just summoned that are attached to the card. Is that something you've ever kind of thought about or considered for the game?
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept, and I've definitely thought about it. It's more so thinking about if we did create the actual Weaver cards, which there is actually one which is canon to the story now. That's Primrose. She's like the very first one in the official lore. But it's more so a question of how would we add that into the gameplay, or would it just be a collector's thing? And the only hesitant thing about it is that the gameplay is kind of fully solved and finished, and just to add that extra layer of complexity, I don't think it really needs that right now. I'd rather people start to master what we've already developed in terms of the actual game itself. And then maybe if we need that other extra spice layer, maybe we'll have the Weaver cards that will augment that gameplay even further.
Yeah, I love this original illustration you did introducing this character. And I like seeing this kind of stuff where you're actually like, we have a really great concept and we can see some of the lore or narrative in the cards themselves and in the gameplay, and sort of what you're explaining on the streams, but actually getting like an illustration here. And it'd be awesome to see like other characters too, and see them kind of come into the gameplay along with like the way Pokemon does with trainers and things. And I could even see, like you were talking about, like Crystal Islands as being its own like hub world, and Ancient Mystic, and like them having like their own little places. That could be cards
Mhm.
too, like you have Pokemon stadiums and that kind of thing. So I think there's just
Sure.
a lot of interesting things in the potential for this game going forward too, sort of as you continue to expand and bring more of the lore alive with some of these things you've been teasing on the Instagram.
Yeah, 100%. And as it gets more developed, we will be releasing more stuff like that. You could think of it now as like there's no actual map for it, but essentially every set, besides the Kickstarter special box, that's not a core set. It's like its own thing. But every set, so Epic Adventures Volume 1, Jurassic Journeys, Ancient Mystic, those are all areas within the dream world, and they would all be sort of on like a map where, like later on when we want to do a video game, you would be able to see all of that and travel through these different areas and encounter figments from those areas and either add them to your team or just defeat them for experience or whatever. And there'll be a lot of different ways to play the game. So, but yeah, that's sort of the concept.
Yeah, I kind of imagine like this blank universe filled with galaxies, and each of these galaxies are like your different sets, the Crystal Islands and Ancient
Mm-hmm.
Mystic and what have you. If we could, why don't we take a look at your product line for Crystal Islands? So I'm gonna pull up
Sure.
just the Instagram page that you have because it actually has the products, and then we'll go to the Kickstarter follow-up page so people know where that is and what that looks like as well. But I think it's gonna be this one. I'm gonna pull it up on the stream now. So this is these are all, correct me if I'm wrong. These are all the products that you're going to be a part of Crystal Island. So it looks like we have a booster box, and then what's the difference between? Is it like it's beginner starter decks versus like intermediate decks, right? That's what the structure decks are. They're kind of once you get a little bit more
Yeah.
uh,
So the
involved.
structure deck it'll be advanced actually. It won't be intermediate. So there is a little rating system right now on all the products. It's beginner, intermediate, or advanced. And the booster boxes are always advanced. The starter decks are always beginner, and then the theme deck is the only one that was intermediate so far. But the structure deck is going to be advanced.
Okay, so and correct me if I'm wrong too, but I remember last time we had an interview, like these products are going to be compatible with Ancient Mystic, which is still available
Oh,
on your
for sure.
website, which was the last set. And what about, and I think you said alpha and beta even. Like, are there any cards or like, is there like a list of maybe things that are banned or restricted or whatever for your game, or
So
is it like, yeah, go ahead and walk us through that.
the alpha cards are not playable, and that's because the rules, like the print, wasn't updated to the modern rules on the alpha cards. But everything
Okay.
from the beta and forward is 100% playable.
Okay. Can you play with
So all
alpha, but like have like errata, or if you understand like how those cards might be different,
I
or is it
mean,
just
you
kind of
could use it as a proxy, but you would have to have the beta card there to show what the modern ruling is on it, because the thing is, the rank system was not developed until the beta phase. So the alpha
okay?
cards, they only show the silver rank because that was the only box there was for it. It doesn't have the whole rank system.
Okay. But
Yeah,
other than that, everything else is perfectly compatible. And one thing I want to bring up
for the
too that
most
I
part. Yeah.
is something that's really strong for me that I like about if I were to play Dream Book or about the gameplay and playability is the fact that you can only use one card of any card. Like you can't have play sets, two, three, four, whatever. You have I don't remember how many deck cards in deck, like 40 or 50 or something like that, but you
30,
you
30 in a deck.
30. Okay. And to me, that the fact that you can only have one of each kind of card, it lends a lot of variety to different gameplay situations. I would expect because you can't, in Magic you have four counter spells because you're depending on being able to use a counter spell, right? At some point you want to have a good chance of drawing that. Here it's not quite the case, right? You might have a powerful card at the very bottom of your deck, and you have to depend on other interactions.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So when you have a 30 card deck, but every single card is unique, it ends up being where almost every game is different because not only are you seeing 30 different cards, but you're also getting them in different orders, and your opponent is getting them in different orders as well. So, the interactions you're going to have between just two different decks is exponential. You know what I mean? It'd be a, I forget what you call those equations with the exclamation point after it, because it's like the more times it goes up, it's like just multiplying at a huge rate.
Oh,
But
it's like exponential.
it's exponential, but there's another word I'm forgetting. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's basically what it is.
Oh, cool.
So it's yeah. So there's a lot of different um, permutations. That's I think what I was looking for. The way that it'll play out, and that can make the game very interesting.
Awesome.
So yeah,
Well, let's go ahead and go over to your actual Kickstarter page, kind of let people know what that looks like. And I have links to everything, all the main sources for Dream Book information down in the link below this description below this video. So you can find this Kickstarter link. Go over there right now. You can save it, so you'll get, I guess, an email to whatever your Kickstarter account is, so that you can know when they go live. It's going to be, again, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on September 5th. I put the Dream Book main website down there as well. That is where you can still find Ancient Mystic booster boxes, which are the last set before this one. And then everything else, there's other stuff on there if you want to look at it, but it's like all sold out, like promos and alpha and beta and all that stuff's out of the shop. And then also their Instagram page. I really recommend checking out their Instagram page, because you guys do awesome putting up spoilers and information and everything. And it seems like that's really a good way to get information. So walk us through your Kickstarter. What can you share about your Kickstarter in terms of like some specific details? I know you don't want to reveal everything, because we want the excitement of that coming live, and seeing all the tiers and product packages and everything.
Yeah.
But have you thought about some things like what is sort of, you don't have to reveal this, right? But what's the number you're looking to raise, or sort of what are you thinking about in terms of what your expenses might be? What are you trying to do with this set with the money that you're raising? And also, can you talk to us, maybe spoil some things or let us in on some secrets for like stretch goals, or maybe some of what the tiers might look like? Anything you want to talk about for your Crystal Island set. And then after that, we can talk a little bit about this other thing that's going to be a part of it, right? The Legacy set.
Sure. Well, so before I dive too deep into that stuff, let me just give a quick overview of the actual products, because I meant to get more into that. I kind of skipped over it.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'll bring that up on the Instagram too. And if there's anything on your Instagram you want me
okay.
to show specifically, definitely let me know that as well.
Let's just bring up the box arts one more time, and I'll just quickly go through each product and just give an
This one here?
overview. Yes.
Cool.
Okay, perfect. So obviously we have the Crystal Islands booster box. It's going to be similar to the last one in terms of it's 36 packs. It's going to have a rare card in every pack, which will be a premium card. It's going to be 18 hollows per box, which means that it's 1 out of every 2 packs has a hollow, just like the last set. Before that, it was 1 out of every 3 packs. And that made it a little bit harder to get those hollows, which was fun when you hit them. But overall, I think the benefit weighs out more to have more hollows in each box. So we're going to stick with that. And then you also get the box topper in each box as well. So it's a sealed, holographic, pretty dang rare card for the box topper. And we're probably going to do the same treatments as we did last time. I might add in some special spice. We'll see with the foiling and stuff on the box toppers. One change there will be is only 7 cards per pack, which will be 6 common and uncommon. The reason we're doing that is because I felt like it was just too much commons and uncommons compared to the rare cards in terms of what you're actually opening up in each box. And I just don't think people need to store 20 copies of the same card, you know what I mean, if they're looking for those rare cards. So that's just what we decided to do there. Then we're going to go to, let's do Structure Deck Primrose next. This is the very first structure deck in Dream Book history. Like I said, it is an advanced deck. What makes it advanced is that it's not just a hodgepodge of kind of beginner cards. It has an actual strategy to it, and all the cards should have a decent amount of synergy. So if you're able to sort of see the combos, put together the combos, and use those cards to their maximum value, you should get a lot of bang for your buck in terms of the power of the deck. But if you're not familiar with all those mechanics, it might be pretty hard to use. So that's the thinking there. And it is the deck used by the very first Weaver, Primrose, in Dream Book's canon. So that's pretty exciting also.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then, so the Legacy Collection, you know kind of about that. It's going to have remastered versions of Dream Book classics, whether it be alternate artworks, alternate effects, or both. Probably not going to ever have the same artwork, so it'll either have a new artwork and a new effect, or just the new artwork, yeah, with the same stats and stuff. This is like an example, perfect example, Sochi. She used to be in the beta starter deck, the Aqua deck, and we wanted to give her a makeover for the new release. I think she looks awesome. Cosmic Metal did a great job on that one, and they
Cosmic
come in
Metal is a new
regular.
artist, right? On your team,
Yeah,
has this artist done any other? It hasn't done anything before Legacy or the Crystal Islands yet.
nothing of Cosmic Metals has been printed yet. It's all going to be coming out in this new release, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. These look really good too. I
Um,
like to see this kind of it's that anime vibe kind of thrown in there, because I like the
yeah,
variety of art you all have. So it's like, with your concept, you can have something like this next to like the kind of storybook watercolor illustrative style as well. Like they both work. And it's just cool to have them both in your hand or out on the game field, I think.
for sure. Yeah, we have a diverse range of styles, but I do think that there's a common thread that runs through all of them that kind of makes it look cohesive. I like the big eyes, for example, right? It's got
Okay.
kind of that
Yeah.
dream book face to it, but the texture is always different, and we'll have different textures throughout. Some of the characters have more
Okay.
realistic proportions and stuff, but it really just depends on the vibe I'm going for each individual card. But yeah, like
Now,
you
by
said,
texture, do you
his
mean like literally the feel of the card, or are you talking sort of artistically?
artistic
Oh,
texture.
okay.
So like if you look at this card, it has a smooth texture with
Oh,
some gradual transitions in the gradients and stuff. Where if you look at some of my watercolor stuff or some other of our artists, it'll have a rougher texture. It's more of
yeah.
that kind of marker and pen or water texture. So
Yeah, I think I have a good example of that too, like with the puppy love card
yeah,
that's over on the Instagram. So that's what you call
exactly.
like sort of the more watercolor style, but it's cool to have them both in the same world, right? Because dreams are crazy like that. So it's interesting to see that artistic concept, stylistic variation, kind of I think mirror that.
Yeah, no, totally. And then as far as so the full arts, I know that we've been posting a lot of full arts, right? We're gonna keep those. The plan right now is they're gonna be pretty dang rare. So like you'll be able to pull the card in its normal form. Yeah, like that's the normal card. Right now, what I'm thinking is it's not gonna be easy to get the full arts for any card. So they're all
Okay.
gonna be pretty limited, yeah.
Well, I remember with Ancient Mystic, and we can talk about like how you're gonna navigate or balance supply for these cards, but Ancient Mystic, which you can still buy over on the Dreambook website,
Mhm.
and I opened one of those, and I have a few sealed. Those the pools in that, I mean, the supply is very low, right? I mean, like I got Black Sonia, I think is what it's called, and I think some of these cards there will be like 35 or 50 of them, right? The
Yeah.
way the pool rates work out, and that's just insane, and I know you were talking about like some depending on if you want a full art, like there's not going to be a lot of those, it's going to be hard to pull, and you have these super high rarities, including I think the like art cards or the sketch cards, whatever you want to call them, that are
Yeah.
just super limited. So I would love to hear like, how are you going to navigate that with Crystal Islands? Because I would assume like, the more backing you get, the more boxes are going to be out there, right? And is that just kind of something up in the air, or what are you thinking about in those terms to make sure that there's still a lot of chase with these full arts and things?
Well, the good part about it is that because there's so many different designs, and this is how we did it with Ancient Mystic too, there was a lot of different fabled rares. So there was the population for each one was 35, which is very low. But at the same time, we could make it so, one out of every two boxes or so, you're going to hit one of those fabled rares because there's so many different ones you can potentially pull, which I think is a good way to balance it because people can have that fun when they're opening and they really do get the value. And at the same time, there is a lot of rare cards to chase. So it gives something for people to come back to also.
Yeah, and in terms of promos, I know you've kind of slowed down on that, and you're kind of focusing on some of these main sets and having sort of a lot of the chase in there rather than being like a super limited promo. We've seen some
Yeah.
TCGs, you know, do all the different con promos and things, and I bring this up because we had a recent comment. Does I want to throw in there Arbiter 360 talking about your Collecticon Kansas City,
Nice.
which I think was like Dorothy or Alice, I forget
Yeah.
which from but such a neat art style. And, for a while, y'all were doing, different promos at cons and things. And I assume you're still going to conventions. And what's your sort of take on doing promos and things out of that, along with like some of these, your main sets?
There are promos that I like and ones that I dislike. Thank you for the comment, Arbiter. That's one of my favorite ones, actually, was the Dorothy from Kansas City. But I think at this point, you know, looking back on all the promos we've done, there's certain ones I would have skipped or just, not done altogether. And then there's other ones that I really like. So, like holiday promos, I still plan on doing special little drops, like one-off drops for the holidays when we can fit it in. But as far as like doing a promo for every Collecticon, definitely not going to be happening. I think that's just complete overkill at this point. And yeah, I don't know. You don't want to flood the market with a bunch of random stuff because it doesn't. It starts out really cool, and then people are like, "Oh wait, there's a Collecticon every single month, so that's like 12 promos a year." You know what I mean? Like that, it's just too much. So, in order to keep the actual focus on the main product and also not flood the market with stuff that I think is kind of just superfluous or whatever. That's why we're weaning down some of the promos.
Yeah, you can certainly see that kind of saturate the market, or the IP of the game, I think, a little bit too. So it's good to see. Like,
Yeah,
I think Kickstarter is just a really great way to come out, and because people follow Kickstarters, they want to follow the campaign, and there's going to be a lot of excitement with that, and I think it's just can be a little bit a good way of just kind of marketing besides just using promos or depending on those. So it's
yeah,
you definitely want to just see a lot more focus and attention on the main sets, I think. So before we go on to our next thing, and I think I'm going to talk about kind of gameplay, and this might be a good time to go through some of the spoilers you sent me. So we do have some spoilers
sure.
from the Crystal Island set, and I feel like I saw one of these. Maybe it was just like in the Dream Book chat that I saw it, but I don't think I saw it on the Instagram. I saw one of them, the Elder, the Vulcan Elder, but these are a set of 5 fire cards we're going to look at. But before we jump into that, can you talk about some of the gameplay, if any of that is kind of changing in terms of new figment types or creature types, or any kinds of new abilities that are going to be coming along with the theme of Crystal Islands?
Well, one thing we try to do with every single set is introduce mechanics that are brand new. So cards are going to have effects that you've never seen before on a Dream Book card in every single new set, and this is no exception. So what you'll find in this set is there's more of a focus on cards that earn gems because it's the Crystal Islands. You know what I mean? It's about like income and economy and stuff like that. But that's just one of the themes. We explore a lot of different themes. So right here, yeah, Crimson Red, Bane of the Goddess. This is one of my favorite cards, by the way. Um,
I think you
I
mentioned like
really
this is
like
like some
artwork.
kind of super boss or like super
Yes,
powerful card or something.
yes. So it'll go into it a little bit on the Kickstarter page, but she's one of the two sisters. There's Crimson Red and Midnight Blue, who were both daughters of the goddess, the firstborn and the secondborn. The firstborn obviously was Crimson Red, and the second was Midnight Blue. And she basically, at one point, in a fit of rage, feeling that she was the eldest and it was her birthright to rule over all of Dreamworld, went on a fiery tirade and tried to actually erupt this volcano, which was the source of all land in the dream world. And her plan was to basically devastate and ravage the entire plane of existence. And so, anyways, I don't want to spoil it too much. I'll let you guys read it. But that's where it starts out. And then so Midnight Blue comes in and she's able to save the day. But that all leads to the creation of the Crystal Islands. And yeah, so she's an extremely powerful figment, obviously, has some unique effects, very high stats. Yeah, we can
Sorry,
go
I
to the
was
next
switching
one.
around cards there, anticipating what we were going to talk about next. So maybe we could talk about another card if you just want to kind of go over just what we're looking at for a card, just kind of really generally. And this is one that I thought would be good to share because this one is actually on Tour Guide from Neo Hawaii. This character is on the box art, right?
Yes.
So we
Yeah, so fast forward after that whole, godlike biblical drama there, we forward to today. And so today, the Crystal Islands are a hustling and bustling economy where there is a brand new type of figment which has been created, which is the androids. And the
Awesome.
androids are powered by the spirit gems, which were formed in the fires of this volcano, which has now since cooled and spits out all these rocks and stuff, right? So they were able to harvest some of these ores and develop this new technology. And at the same time, because it's so rich in all these resources, it developed like it brought travelers from all different lands, people who want to see the islands, see the beauty, see the sights and stuff. And there's a whole economy around that. So these androids, like Tour Guide from Neo Hawaii, is basically the pinnacle of the service industry. She's technology meets the best economy and just like kind of utopia futuristic type vibe. So it should be cool.
Yeah, I like seeing this new kind of character type, and it's nice to hear too that you guys are thinking about like character types, and you mentioned like the abilities or some kind of something with gaining gems or crystals or something, and having those abilities and different character types kind of coming in and being a part of the new theme of what this world is about. So I'm excited to see kind of what else is going to be in there. I feel like you guys have a really good way that you bring cards together for a particular theme, so I'm gonna be looking forward to seeing more androids and things. The Jurassic Journeys was
Yeah.
cool. You have all these dinosaurs was a good example, just tons of dinosaurs, and then really cool stuff that you wouldn't think about, like the Time Police Jane card. I'll try to bring that one up if I can find it on your Instagram. I think it was on there. I saw it earlier when I was going through here. But yeah,
Yeah.
here we go. So I'll share this one. This is I guess a like a reel or something, but or brought over from TikTok. But like, so then I'm imagining like, so this character coming back in time to like run into these dinosaurs because they're a time police, because they're going through history in different time, and that's just a cool feature. You think about a dinosaur set, you don't think about like people just running through history and running into these dinosaurs, because this alone wouldn't really look like a Jurassic or prehistoric car, but it's a really cool how it kind of connects with that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, so I keep trying to explain all the stuff that's going on in the set, and I feel like I can never really get all my words out because it, there's so much going on with it. And that's what's kind of makes it cool is it's not just a Jurassic set or it's not just an island set. Like we add in all these crazy elements that all kind of end up connecting the dots in a very, zany kind of wacky way. But it makes sense because it's Dream Book. You know what I mean? Like it's meant to be really out there and really sort of fantastical. So yeah, perfect
Yeah.
example is it's we had the time police going back in time to fight the dinosaurs because the idea was in their timeline, the dinosaurs never got wiped out by a meteorite. They actually are like contesting humanity to be like the apex predator. So they sent
Wow.
back the time police to put that back into into motion.
Yeah, and you did it really well with Crystal Islands too. Like I wouldn't think like androids, like how are androids fit in with this like island
Yeah.
paradise or whatever, but the way you explained it, then it makes sense. It's just this crazy, really cool, fantastical kind of narrative connection there that you're making. So I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate that. I think that's something else too, we can kind of think about as being something that helps to kind of separate Dreambook and make it unique. And I just found also on Instagram, you also have the other Android here, the flight attendant. So now it makes sense. They're kind of creating these resorts and working on the
Yeah.
airplane and hospitality and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So really, really cool. You've talked a lot about today on the stream about your like the narrative and the lore that you've been kind of thinking about with Dreambook. And I think it might be kind of good to go into talking about a little bit of the future of Dreambook. And so I'd love to hear like how do you plan to feature this narrative, a little bit more, maybe within the cards or even also apart from the cards. Like have you thought about doing like stories or like some kind of shorts, animations and things to help kind of bring some of the things to light, because it makes sense, it works really well, and there is an extent to which I feel like I can see it just opening the product. Like I was talking about with Jurassic Journeys, I was opening Jurassic Journeys, and then like what's this time police stuff, and then it just kind of you make a connection like, oh, that's really cool that they're among these dinosaurs. You're kind of experiencing it as you're opening it. But I'd love to hear like what are some other things you've thought about in terms of bringing the story to life. if you have done that, and also, to tie into that, like just future sets, like have you thought about sort of where the story's going, or just where you'd like to see the next set or the next few sets going?
Yeah, so, well, we actually have the first 8 sets. So this one being the fourth, all planned out already, and
Nice.
what the themes are going to be and all that type of stuff. So there's definitely an overarching plan and story for it. Um, what was the first part of your question? I
Oh,
forgot what you.
so how do you plan to bring the story live, maybe outside of the card game, if you have plans to do that? Like,
Oh, right.
I don't know, comic
Yeah.
books or
So
games or whatever, even doing like stories on a website or something. I know, like, I think Force
100%.
of Will TCG, like they have a lot of stories they write up like on their website, I think. And Akora has a manga and things. And you're just seeing kind of, MetaZoo has big plans of trying to do like shorts, animations, different kinds of things. And it seems to be like something new that TCGs are trying to do more of. Pokemon had that advantage because they were like a game first, right? And the card game came after. But so many more games are coming out now before, as a game first, and then kind of trying to spread out. And I wonder if you all have thought about that a little bit, or where you would like to see Dream Book in terms of types of media.
No, we definitely want to do that. It's something that I've thought about a lot. The whole story is actually there. It's just that I don't want to put anything out that's I don't have the time to like fully really make it right. And the thing is, I'm fully focused on the game, and I have the story in my head. I have certain bits and pieces written out, but I don't want to rush it, and I don't want to put out something that isn't 100% ready. So that's why right now I've been focusing on just doing the cards. But it is supposed to tell a story, like you were kind of saying. Like, so when you open up a box or you open up a pack, if you really kind of delve into like the names, the card effects, the names of the abilities and stuff, and you can start to put together a little bit of that story in your head. Of course, the details might be in your imagination, but that is also okay. I want people to
Yeah.
kind of be able to think about like, oh, how would this card exist in this world with this other card? Like, what would they talk about together or whatever?
Yeah.
And some of that will be more fleshed out in the comic books and all of that. But it's kind of in due time. I'll have to have maybe either more resources or someone else who can kind of tackle the whole comic book side of it while I continue to do the game or something like that. But we do want to create a comic book at some point or a manga.
Yeah, I feel like there's just the world we live in today is just ripe for those kind of like media opportunities. I know for a while I was looking at your Instagram page for those Edge of Allegoria cards. I don't know
Hmm.
if they're still on there or not, but like at some point you had like a promo collaboration with this. I assume it was like an indie video
Hmm.
game called Edge of Allegoria, and I thought that was really cool. And when you look at that game, I think maybe it was like one person. I don't know if that person had a team. That person was just that, the figurehead maybe on Instagram, or if they were doing it on their own. But like a lot of people, there are people who just do a game all by themselves, right? With like some kind of engine, or like people had RPG Maker, that kind of stuff. I don't know anything about game development, but like you could do like, sprite based or pixel based games, or they have, people who are used to the 30-second, the under minute shorts where you could do some kind of narrative animation or card game. And you did your trailer, right? I love that trailer you did with Crystal Islands and
Thank
with
you.
your Ancient Mystic. I mean, like we're in a time where we can kind of manage that stuff or just write up something yourself on a website. And I think it's just that there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think there's a lot in Dreambook that um, could really meld well. It just feels like something that could be like an anime or a cartoon or something, and I think there's just a lot of potential in it in that regard.
No, it should be, and that's what we want one day. I want to say it will be, but it's hard to have that much conviction. Like I
Yeah.
want to see it happen, and I'm going to do everything I can to make it happen. But so like with the comic book and the manga, I want it to be fully illustrated. You know what I mean? So that alone is
Oh yeah, your
a
world is so
whole.
visual.
Yeah, and that needs to be tackled too. So, but between me doing the actual game and doing some of the artwork and managing all the artists and stuff, there's just not time in the day for me to also illustrate or write a comic book. But we're gonna
Yeah.
make it happen at some point.
Going back to the Kickstarter, then I've got a follow-up question I want to ask you about some of, expanding the story of Dream Book. Can you tell us a little bit in the Kickstarter? Have you all do you have a page ready to go live, or are you still kind of thinking about some details, even up to the launch day? And I'm thinking in terms of like stretch goals or like the kinds of tiers that you have, some special promo cards at different tiers and things. Is everything set out in stone, or are you still kind of working on some different things? And can you kind of share, a secret or two regarding what we can look forward to on the launch?
Sure. It is basically done. I don't want to say it's set in stone
Okay.
because nothing's set in stone until I actually print the product. You know what I mean? But the concepts, the graphics, the page itself, all of that stuff is done. It's ready to go. It's ready for you guys to click on it and read it and check it out, which I'm extremely excited about. Um, in terms of little spoilers and things, I could tell you
Don't feel
this.
obligated. I just kind of,
Oh
want to
yeah,
throw it out there.
yeah, sure, it doesn't matter. So we have spoilers all the way up to, or not spoilers, stretch goals to 100K. That's where
Wow.
we've kind of put the freaking, the football all the way out there. That's our long
Awesome.
shot. So if we do get to the final, there's 80K and 100K are two big stretch goals where if we hit those marks, we'll do something pretty, I want to say it's historically significant. It's just a new product, but it's a really exciting
Okay.
new product for Dream Book, which is not cards. It would be more in the toys category.
Whoa, cool.
So that's why, yeah, it would be really cool if we did hit those. And I already have the actual plans. Like for one of them, for example, for the 80K, it's a figurine. I won't say who or what it is, but if you followed us for a long time, you probably already know. But we already have a 3D model ready to go, like ready to be printed. It's fully rendered,
Whoa.
painted, colored, all that.
Oh man, that sounds awesome.
Yeah,
I'm not like
it's
a big
honestly,
statue collector or anything. I did like finally get a have my Skies of Arcadia Aika character I finally got from first four figures in, and that just
nice.
sounds like it would be awesome. It's not something I would have expected at all. So that's a cool surprise. I'm glad that I asked. That would be kind of something neat to see.
Yeah, it's something different. And if we do hit it, that's at 80,000, then we're gonna do it. It'll come in a box. It'll be 6 inches tall. So it's kind of like
Wow.
a bigger figure. And you can also use it if you really want to, and be kind of weird, but you can put it as a proxy in the game. So like if you want to use that character while you're playing, you can put it on the space. And as long as you actually have that card, it's like the card.
Oh, that's such a cool concept.
Yeah.
Especially because your game, for those who may not be aware of the particular gameplay style of Dream Book, it's like kind of like chess, because you have the grids that you move around on. And I love that concept, because so many games do like lanes and different, rows and things like that. And we don't have too many like grid-based games. I like it because I like a lot of those video game grid-based games like Final Fantasy Tactics, and I
Yep.
played Duelist before it sunsetted. That was an amazing game. So I really like that concept of it. So can't wait to see that reveal on the campaign. And so glad to see like you're not just doing the booster boxes and the pre-con decks. Those are all great, right? But you're kind of pushing the envelope and doing something new and different. And I like to see that from different card games. And so it sounds like you're doing good on that front.
Thank you.
Let's close off with I forgot to do these spoilers.
Oh
We
yeah.
got to talk about something else, and let's go through these five spoilers and just kind of give as something fun to do on the stream, reveals a few more cards from the set that to me don't look like they were on the Instagram yet. And then I've got one last question for you, and for those of you who are in the stream who are joining in, or those of you who are seeing this after it goes to become a regular video after the live is done, make sure if you have further questions, drop them down in the comments below. Phil, come back, maybe answer those in the comment section, or I'll kind of bring it to his attention or whatever, or try my best with it. But make sure you drop your questions before we close off the live stream today. If you have any for Phil about Dreambook, make sure that you drop your questions down in the comments below about this Kickstarter. And even as the Kickstarter is going on, if you have questions, you feel free to drop them in. But we're going to close off with just a few spoilers here. Let me bring this up. And these are these all by Cow Wakers. We've got
Yeah,
like
these ones
a
are all like
fire,
now.
a 5 card fire set, right? And this is really cool to me because you talked about how you've got like the islands, right? And then you have like something completely different from the islands, like androids being woven in there in a really cool way. And here, these seem like a little bit more, your island, your
Yeah.
magic tribe or whatever. So what are we looking at with these 5 cards? We don't have to go through all, the whole card. Here we've got a Vulcan Elder. So is this like a fire type? Is this a usual type of card we've seen in Dream Book, or is this something new? Or what can you tell us? Maybe something interesting about each one of these cards that you want to point out.
Yeah, so these 5 cards are all part of an archetype called the Vulcans, which is just one of many different archetypes and many different themes, as I was saying earlier, that you'll see explored in the set. I'm very excited about these guys, though. They're awesome. They all work together. They're all blaze elements, which we have seen the blaze element before. That's basically
I remember
fire,
that starter deck, the Blaze Fire deck.
yeah, and they're all mythic type, which is basically a mythical kind of creature you could think of.
Okay,
So they're not
cool.
actually like they look kind of humanoid, but they're not humans. This one is a magician and a mythic. He's got the
Oh,
tribal blast. It does 10 red magic times the number of Vulcan figments you control. So obviously
okay.
you're going to him, so that's one. But if you have all 4 out plus him, that's 50 damage on an attack. I mean, that's a lot of attack.
So this
So
is like
it's
elves in Magic the Gathering, right? If you're gonna be
kind of
using this in a deck, you're gonna have a lot of these Vulcan type cards, right, working together.
right now. There's only 5 of them,
Okay.
but if you scroll through, there's another one which it's the Vulcan Summoner. Let's get
Let
to
me
the
go to
Vulcan
that one.
Summoner real quick.
There we go.
Okay, so
Summoning
this
the
one.
golem, right?
Yeah, so you can use Bubble Up. That's the first ability. If you control at least 3 Vulcan figments, special conjure Vulcan Golem from your hidden deck, who's like a little boss, mini boss for the deck. And then you've also got Living Lava, which is interesting because this will allow you to special conjure a Vulcan token to your home row with the following stats: 1 heart, 1 speed, 0 defense, 0 bounty, 1 star. It's also a mythic blaze, and then it can attack for 5 physical damage with 1 range.
Oh,
So the
awesome.
idea is you could have just her, and then your opponent now has essentially 2 turns to take her off the board because that first turn you're going to conjure one of those tokens, right? Now you've got 2 Vulcan figments. Next turn you can conjure a third one, and then after that you can go straight for her boss because that's 3 Vulcan
Wow.
figments right there, her and 2 tokens.
Oh,
So, and
cool.
that'll also increase the attack power of the Elder. If you could potentially have even more than 50 attack if you have all 4 of them plus a bunch of tokens out.
Yeah, and since you
So
can only have, you said there's only these 5, and then since you can only have 1 card per deck, I guess you have to be really you have an opportunity to be kind of strategic and imaginative with how you want to put other cards to mix in with these to maybe interact with each other or give each other some backup plans and that kind of thing.
yeah, and there are ways to search for card stuff. So you can increase the consistency if you want to, and really kind of hone in on one strategy. But it's not going to be where you have the 3 copies or whatever.
Okay. And then here's the Vulcan Golem that she was summoning, right?
Yeah.
And for those who are not familiar, we talked about this in the last stream, but in the gameplay, the black star abilities are your active abilities. Like you can use those like once per turn
Yes.
or something like that. And then the white star abilities are your passive abilities, right?
Yeah.
And the
So the
last one,
active,
yeah.
you can use them during the battle phase, and then after you use an active ability, the figment will become fatigued, which is like you can't do anything with for the rest of the turn. And then the passive is like it's always on, and it's happening whenever it says it happens.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then we've got the Vulcan Pygmy. So another one from the tribe we have here. I love
Yep.
this because I haven't played this game yet, but I feel like I know how to play. Just the design is simple in a good way. Like it's cleanly portrayed on the card, and it just feels like something that would be easy to kind of introduce someone to the game. Like I said, so you got a dagger that can do 8 damage, right? And it's got a
Yep. And
range of
then
1, and then
range of 1.
it's got its Magma Walker passive. It cannot be burned, and then it's got some other stuff going on if you have those multiple figments, and then you have your sort of standard attributes underneath that. So I love it. It's easy to read, and it feels like, especially where in a game where you have a lot of different interactions, that you're able to kind of figure out what's going on the battlefield.
Yeah, it helps to keep it relatively concise and easy to figure out because there are so many interactions. It can quickly go from seeming like an easy game to an overwhelming game, you know? So,
Yeah, especially when you're factoring in navigation now too, right? That's what makes
yeah,
chess so complex. Is just, I guess,
yeah.
it gets exponentially. You get more
That,
possibilities with all of that different range of motion being featured in there as well. And then the last one we have here is Vulcan Tiki. So clearly part of the tribal element, the Vulcan theme here as well. So what can you tell us about this card?
this guy is more of a just basic support guy. He's got roasting romp, fairly straightforward, 11 damage, burns target, and then fueled by fire. So this is more interesting. If you control another Vulcan figment when this card is slain, you may discard one card from your hand. If you did, special conjure this card from the boneyard to your home row. So
Okay.
he can recur himself at the cost of cards in your hand, which can be pretty good because you kind of want to keep those figments on the board. It's more valuable to have a figment on board than it is to have one in your hand, for example.
Okay.
So, and then you've got the lucky. So the green clover means it's a lucky figment, and that will
Oh.
allow you to play one extra card of any type each turn.
Oh, cool. So you have to be kind of, everyone has a different bottom left corner symbol, so you kind of have to balance which ones of those are going to be best at any particular time in the game.
There's four suits, just like playing cards, and then
Okay.
there's like
Four
one.
suits.
It's called perfect, which is a star, and the perfect figments have the special abilities of all the suits.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Phil, I think that about wraps it up. I have one last question for you, but I just want to kind of let everyone know who's watching this video, who's coming in after and seeing this video later, or maybe even during the Kickstarter. If you have any questions, make sure you definitely let Phil know down in the comments below. Gameplay, collectability. I feel like we covered a lot of good bases for Dreambook as a whole and the campaign. So I'm really looking forward to this campaign when it launches on September 5th. I do plan to back it, and I'm really interested in checking out this figure now, and what other surprises you have in store. My last question for you, I'm so interested in the story and the narrative around Dream Book and the whole concept of it. It feels like you've been putting so much effort into the gameplay, and it seems like it was so fun to pick up and play, and easy to introduce, easy to get into, but maybe kind of hard to master. So it's
Mhm.
great that you're focusing on what really matters with the card game, but I'm still interested in the future potential for the story and like other media expansions for this IP. That you've been growing, and I just wanted to ask you, kind of fun, because I know you like video games. I know you did a kind of a collab with Edge of Allegoria, and I want to know how would you see Dreambook as a video game if it were a video game? What could you imagine it being like?
That's a great question. It's actually top priority for me. I would say if I was going to focus after this Kickstarter, obviously get that all delivered. My next big hurdle that I would like to overcome is getting a Dreambook video game published on Steam. And I think that
Awesome.
that might even be more powerful than something like the comic book, even though they're both great. But having that game that people can actually play would be incredible. I have two different ideas for what I want. The first one is I want to have an online client for the card game, but on Steam. So you can
Nice.
play online. There'll be ranked play. You can open up packs online. We might even introduce the code where you can open up, code in the real life packs and then redeem it for, a pack online. I still
That
have to
would be
look
cool.
into the logistics of that, but it would be a really cool thing. But rest assured, we will be supporting the online play once it comes out with prizes and benefits for the players and all that. And then the other
Awesome.
one I want to do is a role-playing game, like a JRPG style
Oh,
for
okay.
Dreambook. And this would be one where you're going to kind of you're going to go through the life of like an average weaver or whatever. So you can create your character name, right? You're going to wake up, you're going to like get dropped into this crazy cutscene of all this fantastical dream world stuff, and maybe you'll see a few of like the classic figments talking to you or whatever. And then you wake up, right? And your player character who you named, and you can pick, you know, do you want to be a boy or a girl, yada yada, maybe some customization. And then it says like, you know, you get this inner dialogue where you're like, that was the most insane dream I've ever had. Like, what was that? And so you go over to your little desk in your room, and it's all like pixel art, and you start drawing what you saw in your dream and writing it down, and you create your dream book. Close it on your desk. There'll be a time lapse where like you go to school, and then like you come back the next day, right? And you see like your little main character walk across, like get into bed and like go to sleep. And then as the camera, you know, as you go to sleep, you see like your body like lifts up out of the bed and gets sucked into the book, and like the pages fly everywhere, and then like the camera zooms into the dream book. Yeah. And so for the very first time, your character is in the dream world, and it's not just like an out of body experience. Like you physically get beamed into the dream world. So it's high stakes too. Yeah. Like if you die in the dream world, you die in real life. So yeah.
It sounds like you've thought about this already a little bit. That's great to hear, because it sounds, you know, it just kind of emphasizes how much, you know, you and I know others on the team care about this game, and, you know, what potential it has. And I know you said JRPG, so I'm thinking like Final Fantasy X kind of turn-based. But I got to tell you, you know, with the grid-based system, like I'm thinking like Final Fantasy Tactics. You know, like you move around just like you do in the card game, you know, and like maybe summon creatures out onto different squares and things. And you know, it's like old school pixelated Final Fantasy Tactics. That's just what I had in mind with it being the grid-based game, because those are the kinds of games I like grew up playing, like Final Fantasy Tactics, Front Mission. You know, I love those isometric 3D games. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity there too. Maybe you can make a couple of different games over time. So.
I mean, we'll have to, you know, see what it takes to develop all that stuff, but that's pretty much exactly what I'm picturing. Something like that. And then, yeah, you know, like as your little character's walking through the world, you know, maybe you get into encounters, and then that becomes its own little sort of
like
game with it, you know,
battle arena
it opens
or something.
up a board. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, cool.
And then you play against, you know, whatever you encountered. But yeah, so.
No, that sounds awesome. And, you know, just to kind of close off here, I think it's just I think something that you all really represent and represent well is just kind of this era that we're in now, where you can kind of, you know, take things upon yourselves and be an indie business or TCG. You know, you used to not be able to have something like Kickstarter and crowdfunding and social media to allow you to kind of bring these projects to life. And that's something I love about indie TCGs. Something I love about Kickstarter TCGs, and something I love about you all is that you're representative of that, and you being able to do that. And so I think it makes sense to come back for the second Kickstarter and to kind of be doing this all on your own. So I think it's just really awesome, and just kind of appreciate being a part of the journey and seeing what's to come.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. And I'm so grateful for all of you guys and anyone who decides to support us on our journey and wants to be a part of it. Wouldn't be possible without all of you guys. So, you know, I can't thank you enough, really. And yeah, man, I'm very excited for the future of Dream Book. And I hope you guys are, like you were saying, seeing how much is going on behind the scenes and the world building, and hopefully you can kind of start to see the entire picture we're going for here. But yeah, I think it's going to be really cool.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to the campaign. I think it's going to be an exciting one. And thanks for being on the channel today, doing this interview. And maybe we can have you back on at some point during the campaign or near the closing of it, and chit chat about what's going on and look through the campaign page a little bit more in depth.
Sure. Yeah, man, that would be cool. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Phil. Take care.
Take care. See you guys.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you.